My name is Myra Whitmore. I'm 34 years old, a cardiology resident, and a single mother to 3-year-old twins. 2 months ago, I was bleeding internally on a gurney in an emergency room after a car accident. My hands shaking as I tried to hold my phone steady. Doctors were moving fast. Voices blurred together. Someone mentioned surgery. All I could think about was Lily and Lucas. I dialed my parents' number because I had no one else. I just needed a few hours, someone to sit with my kids while doctors tried to keep me alive. Instead of help, I got a text in our family group chat. "You've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Vanessa tonight. Figure it out yourself." So I did. From my hospital bed, I called an emergency nanny service, paid triple the usual rate, and made a decision that would end 8 years of quiet sacrifice. I cut them off completely: the mortgage payments, the health insurance, the car repairs. Every dollar I'd been sending for nearly a decade stopped that day. 2 weeks later, someone knocked on my door. But before I tell you who it was, let me take you back to the beginning. Growing up in the Carver household, love was conditional and ranked. My older sister, Vanessa, had always been first. 3 years older, effortlessly beautiful, magnetic in a way that made my parents glow whenever she entered a room. When Vanessa announced she wanted to be a fashion designer, my mother cried happy tears. My father called her our little visionary. When I said I wanted to become a doctor, my father nodded once. That's practical. That was it. So I worked harder. I buried myself in textbooks, graduated near the top of my class, and clawed my way into one of the best medical schools in the country. 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, residency in cardiology. The day I graduated medical school should have been unforgettable. My parents arrived 2 hours late. "Sorry, sweetheart," my mom said, eyes already drifting away. "Vanessa had an emergency meeting with a potential investor. We had to drop her off first." No flowers, no dinner, just a rushed photo in the parking lot before they left to support Vanessa through her stressful day. 3 years earlier, they'd flown the entire family to New York for Vanessa's first fashion show, 5-star hotel, front row seats. My dad posted 17 photos online, so proud of our talented girl. I got a parking lot picture and a distracted, "Congrats, honey." I told myself it was reasonable. Fashion was unstable. Vanessa needed support. Medicine was secure. I could manage on my own. What I didn't realize was that my parents weren't just emotionally invested in Vanessa. They were financially dependent on me. It started 8 years ago, right after I finished medical school. My father called one evening, his voice tight with embarrassment. "We're in a bind, Myra. Mortgage is due. Things are tight. Could you help us out, just this once?" I sent $2,400 that night. Just this once became every month. Then came the health insurance premiums when my dad lost coverage. Then car repairs, a roof leak, a new furnace. I never said no. When I got pregnant with twins and their father left during my 5th month, I called my parents from the hospital after a bleeding scare. "We wish we could come," my mom said, "but Vanessa is overwhelmed after Milan. She really needs us." They didn't come for the birth, or the weeks after, when I was exhausted, studying for boards while caring for 2 newborns alone. The money still went out every month. I kept a spreadsheet. I don't know why, maybe part of me needed proof that I wasn't imagining things. 8 years, roughly $320,000. I never asked for gratitude. I never expected praise. But I never expected to be called a burden by the people I'd been carrying for nearly a decade. The accident happened on a Tuesday evening, after a 16-hour shift. The light turned green. I entered the intersection. A truck ran the red light at 50 miles an hour. I woke up in an ambulance, pain tearing through my abdomen. Dr. Marcus Smith, an ER physician I worked with, hovered above me. "You were hit hard," he said, "possible internal bleeding. You're going into surgery." "My kids," I whispered, "the babysitter leaves at 8. It was 7:15. I called my parents. My father sounded annoyed. "We're about to leave." "What is it?" "I've been in an accident. I need surgery." Please, I just need you to watch the twins for a few hours. Silence, muffled voices, laughter. Then the text appeared. You've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Vanessa. Figure it out yourself. Another message followed. You're a doctor. Don't make this a bigger deal than it is. Vanessa responded with a laughing emoji. That was the moment something inside me finally broke. Marcus handed me his phone without a word. I found a 24-hour nanny service, approved emergency care, paid triple, and made sure my children were safe, all in under 5 minutes. Before my phone died, I asked Marcus to screenshot the messages. The surgery lasted 4 hours, a ruptured spleen, minutes from death. I spent 5 days in the hospital. Not a single call from my parents. On the 3rd day, I cancelled every automatic transfer, then I blocked their numbers. There was no drama, just relief. 2 weeks later, I was home, making pancakes for Lily and Lucas when someone knocked on my door. Through the peephole, I saw a tall man with silver hair and familiar blue eyes. My grandfather. I hadn't seen him in years. He hugged me gently, then held my face in his hands. I know everything, he said, Eleanor told me. He handed me an invitation to his 70th birthday. The whole family will be there, he said quietly, and some things need to be said. Later, as he watched my twins play, he looked at me across the table. Do you still have records of the money you sent them? I nodded. Every transfer, I said, 8 years. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't alone anymore. Good, he said, leaning back in his chair. I want a full accounting. Every transfer, every date, every dollar. Why? I asked. Because at my birthday party, he replied evenly, in front of the entire family, the truth is coming out. There was no anger in his eyes, no thirst for revenge, just certainty. And facts, he added after a beat, have a way of speaking for themselves. My fingers shook around my mug. What if they hate me? The ones who matter won't, he said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand, and the ones who do never deserved you in the first place. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. I printed bank statements, transfer confirmations, payment histories, 8 years of financial support laid out in stark black and white. I organized everything chronologically and slid it into a plain manila folder. Seeing it all together was overwhelming. Month after month, year after year, a steady river of money flowing in one direction. 3 days before the party, Aunt Eleanor came by. She flipped through the folder in silence, her mouth tightening with every page. $360,000, she said finally. Do you understand what this represents? I nodded. It's more than most people earn in 7 years. She closed the folder with a sharp snap. And they had the nerve to call you a burden. I don't want to destroy the family, I said quietly. I just want them to see it, to acknowledge what I've done. You're not destroying anything, she replied, resting a hand on my shoulder. You're ending the lie. They built their comfort on your silence. You don't owe them that anymore. I nodded, though my stomach churned. What if everyone sides with them? Some might, she said. Families protect the story that makes them most comfortable. But your grandfather has influence, and you have the truth. That night, a message popped up from a cousin I rarely spoke to. Heard you and your parents had a falling out. Vanessa's been saying you've been acting erratic since the accident. Just thought you should know. I stared at the screen. They were already rewriting history, casting me as unstable before I'd said a word. I hadn't wanted a confrontation, but they were clearly preparing one. The day of the party, I pulled into my grandfather's driveway with Lily and Lucas in the back seat, both of them pointing excitedly at the balloons bobbing near the porch. His colonial estate looked exactly as it always had, white columns, sweeping lawn, quiet authority. More than 40 cars lined the drive. Everyone was there. I wore a simple navy dress, professional, unassuming. The folder rested in my bag like a quiet promise. Inside, the house hummed with conversation. Crystal glasses clinked. A string quartet played softly near the windows. Everything glittered. I saw my parents immediately. They stood by the fireplace, Dad polished and composed, Mom radiant in cream. When they noticed me, Mom's smile vanished, Dad's shoulders stiffened. Then Vanessa appeared. She drifted over in a designer dress, her smile flawless and cold. "Oh, Myra," she said, air-kissing my cheek. "You made it. We heard about your accident. Nothing too serious, I hope." "A ruptured spleen and internal bleeding," I said evenly. "I nearly died." Her smile flickered. "Mom said it was just a minor crash." "Mom wasn't there," I replied, adjusting Lucas on my hip. "None of you were." For a fraction of a second, her composure cracked. Then it returned. "Well, you look fine now," she said lightly. "That's what matters." She drifted away. The tension stayed. 30 minutes later, the whispers began. "I'm honestly worried about Myra," Vanessa said loudly near the dessert table. "The accident really affected her. She's been saying strange things, cutting Mom and Dad off for no reason." Mom dabbed at her eyes. "We've tried everything. She won't answer our calls. I think she's having some sort of breakdown." "She was always sensitive," Vanessa added. "Remember how dramatic she was growing up? Being a single mom must be overwhelming." I felt the weight of stares, pity, judgment. I said nothing, just handed Lucas his juice and smoothed Lily's curls. Aunt Eleanor slipped beside me, furious. "They've been laying this groundwork all week. They're trying to discredit you before you speak." "I know," I said. Across the room, Grandpa Thomas watched, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He met my eyes and gave the slightest nod. The room quieted as someone tapped a glass. Grandpa rose. Even at 70, he commanded attention instantly. "Before we continue," he said calmly, "there are a few things I'd like to address." The air shifted. Before he could continue, my father stepped forward. "Dad, wait." His voice was controlled, but his jaw was tight. "There's something the family should know first." Grandpa lifted an eyebrow. "Richard." Dad turned to the room, concern etched carefully onto his face. "My daughter has been struggling since her accident," he said. "She's confused, distant. She's cut us off entirely." Mom stepped beside him. "We only want what's best for her," she said, voice trembling. "But she's been telling people terrible things, saying we abandoned her." "We gave her everything," Dad said softly. "Everything," Vanessa echoed. "She's even claimed we refused to help her during the accident." "That's simply not true." Murmurs rippled through the room. An aunt approached me. "Sweetheart, are you okay? Your parents are so worried." I opened my mouth and froze. Then Grandpa Thomas spoke. "Are you finished, Richard?" His tone was mild. The authority beneath it was unmistakable. Dad hesitated. "I just thought the family deserved context." "The family deserves the truth," Grandpa said evenly. "And that is exactly what they're about to get." "It's about honesty," Grandpa said calmly. "For the first time in 8 years, this family knows the truth, not your version, not Vanessa's revision." "The truth," Vanessa tried one last time. "This is absurd. You're making us sound like monsters. We're your family. Families help each other." "You're right," I said, turning to face her. "Families do help each other." "So where were you when I was pregnant and alone? Where were you when I was studying for my boards with newborns strapped to my chest? Where were you when I was bleeding out in an ambulance?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I looked at my parents. "I won't be sending money anymore. Not because I can't, but because support should be a gift, not an entitlement. And in a family that actually cares, it doesn't flow in only one direction." My mother reached for me. "Myra, please. I'm not cutting you off forever," I said gently but firmly. "But I need real space. Not a few weeks of guilt followed by pretending nothing happened. I need you to sit with this. And if one day you can truly acknowledge it, maybe we can rebuild. But I won't wait for that." I took Lucas back from Aunt Eleanor. "I won't hold my breath." A great-aunt stepped forward, her hands warm and trembling as she held mine. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. All these years, I thought you had it easy. I know, I said softly. That's how it was meant to look. My parents left early. No one stopped them. No one followed. My father guided my mother to the car as she cried into his shoulder. Vanessa trailed behind, eyes fixed on the ground. The silence they left wasn't awkward. It was the kind that comes after a storm, heavy, cleansing, final. In the days that followed, my phone rarely stopped buzzing. Cousins I barely knew apologized. Aunts admitted they'd believed the wrong story. I thought you were the difficult one cousin wrote. Vanessa made it sound like you just drifted away. I'm so sorry. The family group chat, the one where I'd been called a burden, went quiet. Then it disappeared entirely. My parents began to fade from gatherings. No announcement. No confrontation. Just quiet exclusion. They weren't invited to birthdays. Their names weren't on holiday lists. 2 weeks later, my mother called from a new number. I let it go to voicemail. This has all been blown out of proportion, she said through tears. Can't we just move past it? I listened once. Then I deleted it. Forgiveness, I'd learned, wasn't a reset button. It was something I could offer when I was ready, not something owed on demand. 3 months later, Aunt Eleanor called. They're selling the house, she said. I closed my eyes. They can't afford it, can they? No. They're staying in your uncle's guest house for now. He made it clear, this is temporary. They need jobs. Jobs. My parents hadn't worked full-time in years. They hadn't realized how much they depended on me until the support vanished. What about Vanessa? I asked. Eleanor gave a short laugh. Her divorce hit hard. And after the party, word spread. She lost a major contract. Last I heard, she's waitressing. I watched Lily and Lucas chase each other across the yard. I don't want them to suffer, I said. I know, Eleanor replied softly. But they didn't grow because you carried them. Letting go wasn't cruelty, it was necessary. That night, I redirected the money I used to send them into a college fund for the twins. For the first time, my sacrifice was building something forward, not propping something broken. 6 months later, Vanessa called. Her voice was stripped of confidence. Please don't hang up. I'm listening. I'm sorry, she said. For everything. For laughing when you were dying. I didn't know about the money, not really. I never asked. I liked being the favorite. She swallowed. Nothing's easy anymore. Then start there, I said. Be better. I'm trying. Good. We hung up. And for the first time, I felt hope, not for reconciliation, but for truth. 1 year after the accident, I stood in my small apartment, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, sunlight spilling across the floor. It wasn't grand. But it was close to the hospital, in a good school district, and it was mine. No obligations disguised as love. No payments tied to guilt. Just peace. Grandpa Thomas became a constant. Sundays with the twins. Ice cream I pretended not to notice. Aunt Eleanor became family in the truest sense, steady, honest, kind. You didn't become bitter, she once told me. Most people would have. What would that fix? I asked. Bitterness only poisons the person carrying it. My parents survived. Not comfortably, but honestly. And that was no longer my responsibility. For 34 years, I believed love was something you earned, through sacrifice, silence, usefulness. I was wrong. Love isn't a transaction. It isn't payment for endurance. And nothing you give can purchase what should have been freely offered. The people who stood by me, my grandfather, my aunt, friends who showed up when it mattered, they loved me for who I was, not what I provided. That's the difference. And it took almost dying to understand it. If the people who raised you call your self-respect betrayal, then maybe they never deserved your loyalty. To anyone carrying a weight that was never yours, it's okay to put it down. You're not selfish. You're not ungrateful. You're not a burden.